Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. It's Funmi speaking, the principal attorney at the law firm. I wanted to do a review on this artificial intelligence policy. I haven't had the chance to look through it yet, but I did put the URL into the site because I wanted to see if they had information about cookies, which they do, which is fun. This is the first instance of me landing on this site. I did not go to their regular homepage. I just went specific to this URL. So we have this insight here. I'm not going to spend too much time in this review on cookies today. We're looking at AI. We use cookies to optimize site functionality and give you the best possible experience. I find this language to be very, very broad. Now, I'll just make mention of this. From a transparency perspective, under the data protection laws, you need to be able to explain how you process personal data. Using language like give you the best possible experience doesn't really provide the level of transparency I think is required under the data protection laws. I am going to take a look at settings though, and if this was a cookie review, I would be looking far more closely at the language. It appears here that they only use necessary cookies and analytical cookies. I want to say something about the web space in general in 2025. A lot of organizations are also utilizing their websites. I definitely do. And then also a lot of organizations are doing things like personalization, and they also interact with third parties because the third parties give them valuable insight into how the consumers are moving around the website. I don't think that's articulated here, but this is not a cookie review. This is an AI policy review. I'm going to say I do not accept the cookies so that analytical cookies are not being utilized. Let's look at the AI policy for this company. I'm just going to hover over this. I'm not entirely sure the services in scope, but I'm hoping that the AI policy gives us some insight into that. So they talked about AI tools are transforming the way they work. Note in this entire document where employees are referenced, this applies to full-time contractual employees, contracted staff, and any other third parties that work with us. The AI policy applies to, these groups involved in the design, development, procurement, deployment, use, or management of AI tools and systems within the organization. Wow, this is such a broad scope. I'm very interested in seeing how they're going to cover this in the policy. It encompasses all AI technologies, tools, and applications used, regardless of whether they are developed in-house or acquired from third-party external providers. I love this. The reason I've highlighted acquired from external providers is because one thing that businesses need to understand is just because you've acquired an AI technology from an external provider doesn't mean you yourself don't have obligations under data protection laws or AI laws as well. And this is significantly seen in the European Union with the EU AI Act. They have different categories in which a business entity utilizes AI, and then they also recognize the rules and responsibilities for landing in a specific category. And it is not absolved of an organization that acquires an AI technology from an external provider. So whether or not you develop your AI in-house or whether you acquire it, there are obligations you have if you're using it. The policy covers all aspects of the AI system lifecycle, including data collection, which we do. I talked about this. Every facet of a business's life encroaches on personal data. You cannot escape personal data. And again, you cannot escape personal data in AI as well. We talked about the data collection here, model training. Again, training of data sets. Does your training data set include personal data? Testing data, the deployment, the monitoring, and then the retirement. We talked about the data protection laws require that you don't retain data indefinitely, and that has implications on the use of AI technologies. So you need to find out how you are going to marry the AI obligations and the data protection obligations since data is involved. I love that this AI policy has definitions. This is really valuable, and I'll tell you why. I've talked a lot on my channel about audience. The notices that you place on your site are generally for an audience that aren't familiar with the technicalities of artificial intelligence. They're not intimately familiar with the implications of personal data and your business's use of it. You need to make sure that the consumers of the notices and policies that you place on your website can understand what it is that you are writing. And I think that us as lawyers are very good at being able to articulate audience when we draft things. If you've watched any of my privacy notice reviews, you've seen some of the notices that I've identified that was drafted by a lawyer for other lawyers, but that is not who your target market is. Your target market are the consumers that you've put in scope, and we see that the consumers here are employees, contractors, and third-party partners. The likelihood of this group of individuals understanding the technical nuances of what constitutes a large language model is slim. So I just wanted to articulate that I really enjoy the fact that this has a lot of definitions because I think it addresses the audience. Let's talk about this: third-party and vendor tools. AI solutions sourced from external vendors, including updates to existing tools or new services, must undergo a risk assessment and review to ensure alignment with organizational standards. Very crucial. One thing that privacy attorneys that are creating and optimizing privacy programs do is they conduct these risk assessments for organizations to ensure that any external vendor product or tool adheres to a business's organizational standards, one, but also their obligations under the data protection laws. When you introduce any third party to your organization, you're inherently taking on risk. So for example, your business might have an excellent privacy program. You might be doing your risk assessments, your DPIAs, your ROPAs, all of your policy documentation could be in check. But if you introduce a third party who has no privacy program, who doesn't have technical and organizational measures, who doesn't have a privacy notice, you're introducing risk, and you still have responsibilities under the data protection laws, irrespective of what your third party does. So it's really important for you to conduct these risk assessments. If you're engaging with a third party that doesn't even have a privacy notice and doesn't encrypt data in rest or in transit, you put your business in jeopardy. And if you have reporting obligations, let's say, for example, your third party experiences a breach and they're not collaborative in helping you meet your obligations, whether it is to report the breach to a regulator, you could get fined. And a lot of fines have been issued in this respect. So it's really important for you as a business to manage your risk as it comes to third-party vendors, particularly with all these AI solutions and AI startups that are presenting and providing tools in the market that may not adhere to the data protection laws and the standards that your organization has and or wants. So I really hope you enjoyed this review of the AI policy. This indeed is a true policy, and I've talked in depth about what the distinction between notice and policy is on my channel. Take a look at my other AI notice and AI policy reviews. But if you're a business and you're looking for drafting of this terminology, take a look at my description below and I'll see you in another review.